Welcome back to Lucid Alchemy. I'm Angel Miller, author of The Three Stages of Initiatic Spirituality and The Path of the Warrior Mystic, among other books. And I'm talking with Lua Valentia, an author on chaos magic and the founder of the specular system. And we are talking about etiquette. Is it old-fashioned and out of date, or is it still essential for getting on in life, especially romantically?
Oh, yes. So I requested you guys to send me a bunch of questions, and you did. And let's start with this one. Does etiquette even matters on dates? Do you think chivalry is dead, or is it evolving different ways?
Well, I think chivalry is largely dead, but etiquette will always be around. Etiquette is just how we relate to each other and show respect to each other. But chivalry, as in, men, well, if you mean men going gallantly into battle for a princess, or whether it's, men standing up on a subway train and giving a woman her seat because she's a woman, yes, that is certainly all dead.
I disagree. As long as you are alive, it's going to be alive. I think it's rarer nowadays, but
Hmm.
it's definitely real. And you are a great example of this. I met you in England and you were the perfect gentleman. So it is very rare, but it is real. You just need to look further and be patient. And also another thing I think it is to accept that men actually, if you let them, they want to be gentlemen. Because nowadays, unfortunately, we tend to punish those who want to be gentlemen because of propaganda and also because women were taught since an early age that they need to be independent and they need to show strength or whatever it is. For instance, nowadays, sometimes it is bad to allow a man to open the door for you. Of course, everyone knows that women can open doors. You don't have to prove that you're strong enough to open a door. But allow some acts of chivalry. Not also not to wait for it all the time, of course not, but allow it to happen when it does happen and praise the act instead of punishing these types of acts. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, when I said chivalry is dead, I meant culturally on a large scale, for sure. Of course, there are individuals who will still be chivalrous, but yeah, for sure. On a large scale, no,
I think we should strive to bring it back by example.
for sure.
And that's the idea of today's video. Today's video is going to be highly controversial because we're going to talk about masculine energy and feminine energy a lot. And I hope people who are watching us can just, whatever it is you identify with, I don't care. Just understand that there is a dynamic happening, and sometimes this dynamic shifts, and I will explain when it happens. But do not be offended or try not to be offended when we say things such as masculine versus feminine energy. If we do want chivalry to be alive and well, we need to recognize that these energies are different and they exist and coexist. So, Angel, it is the role of the masculine energy to chase more the feminine energy. So, one question we received was, what's a subtle way to show someone you are interested without being too forward? For women, we just look at the man like a vampire who is very hungry or thirsty, something like
Yeah,
that. This
yeah.
is a way to show that you're interested with eye contact a lot.
Hmm.
That's the
Yeah.
feminine way. What is the masculine way?
Yeah, well, let me just comment on that. In a day and age where men are told that we must be friends with women and must not sexualize women or anything like that, I think these subtle signs often go over the heads of many men. So if you are going to portray your interest through eye contact, it might have to be a lot of eye contact because a lot of guys aren't really going to get it, especially the nicer guys. Obviously, guys who aren't very respectful and that you probably aren't interested in, yeah, they might pick up on it or might perceive something that's not even there. But a very nice guy is not, he's going to think, oh, she's probably just being friendly and I mustn't, overstep the bounds that society tells me. It would be terribly oppressive. So, but how to mention, I think. Yeah, it is different for men, and eye contact isn't enough. I think you just have to express that you find find the woman or the other person beautiful, and not obsessively, of course, but just say it and then see what response you get. And I think, most women will be able to express appreciation or they prefer to be friends in a way that most men could pick up on. So I think you just have to say it politely.
I believe clarity is essential here because nowadays with social media, women receive a lot of "you're beautiful," whatever, from
Mm,
both genders. I think the men should invite her on a date.
for sure.
That would be the first
Yeah.
sign, I believe, more than compliments or something. A very clear way of saying that, oh, would you like to go out with me or something? Then
Yeah,
the,
I think after you've expressed that you find that person beautiful, then yeah, then you can gauge the reaction and then move on to saying, let's do this. How about
yeah,
next
that's a good
Tuesday
one.
or whenever? Yeah.
Check her reaction first, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Oh, another thing I'd like to add to this, be very careful with backhanded compliments. For instance, if they say, "Oh, you look good for your age," it's very passive aggressive. I hate this kind of compliments and also avoid at all costs giving this kind of compliments, you know. I know there are some people who play around with this, and some pickup artists they teach men how to do this type of things, and just give a genuine compliment, a genuine that the person can feel that you actually are meaning what you're saying.
Yeah. Or less is more.
I
You can
agree.
just say you look good. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I think if you are specific, it's better. Less is more, but also be specific.
Mhm.
For instance, I love your haircut.
Thank you.
It is
Yeah.
a short, specific, true, on point, and not backhanded. So you want
Mhm.
that.
For sure.
Don't go for this pickup artists because nowadays girls know, you know, at the beginning of the movement, perhaps you could impress a girl like that. But nowadays, everyone knows what is happening and it's just a technique and it's a very cheap technique. So someone asked, it is rude to Google them before the first date asking for a friend. No, not at all. I think you should do that for safety reasons for
Mhm.
girls. And I believe everyone does that nowadays.
Yeah.
Even for work, they Google you, they check your social media. Everyone does that. I think it's important not to be a stalker. People do that as well. There's some people who are like, oh, I know your entire family history just by checking your social media account. I think that's a little bit excessive, but definitely check, Google them. And for women, run a background check if you can. I know in Brazil there are certain websites that you can check for things, for instance, if they are married, if they have any problems with the justice system. These are very important because you never know, especially if you've never met them before. It is important to Google them.
Yeah, well, yeah, I definitely think you should Google someone and check out who they are. I mean, I would say that, if you look at someone's social media site or their website, that they're presenting a certain image. So if there is, if there are things on there that are really bad, someone snorting cocaine from a table or whatever, or it looks like you could be in a dangerous situation. That's definitely someone you don't want to be involved with. But just if someone's looking beautifully dressed and next to a yacht or whatever in a penthouse, this doesn't mean that they're safe and that they're not going to be violent or they're not going to be weird or anything. So yeah, you should check people out and get a feel for how they present themselves and how they want to present themselves and how they want to be seen and see, oh, no, see if you have anything in common with them as well. But I wouldn't take that as, yeah, you're totally safe with this person. You should take normal precautions when you're out and gauge the situation when you're with someone, some stranger for sure, especially women with men.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I saw some horrible cases of women going on dates and being a delivery girl, which is basically a term when the girl delivers herself, meaning they Uber her or whatever for sexual encounters, and then she came alive and end up in a suitcase. So this sort of things happen, and I know people, I remember when I post that being a delivery girl could kill you, and people said I was being sexist. And I think people don't understand the dangers enough because they sell this hookup culture as the norm nowadays. And because we think we know everyone from social media, we think we're safe. But that's how predators, they study you, they check on you, they lure you, and then they put you in a suitcase. So be careful. It's not, I'm not trying to be sexist, it's just how things are. I rather be safe than
Mm,
politically correct,
yeah, yeah.
And I
Well,
think I,
we've all met people and all known people that, at first were very nice and seemed very rational and decent, and then turned out to be completely crazy. And, I've known both men and women like that. But, the difference is, that there's a limit to what, in most situations, what one man can do to another man as opposed to, a guy who's 6 feet tall and there's a 4 foot, 5'5" woman, she's in much more real danger. Or even if, a predator who's male could attack another male and even win, he's going to think twice about it because he might be injured in the process. Whereas a woman is just because of her usually much more petite, is in more
yeah,
danger, obviously.
definitely. And I saw a trend as well that stating that women have no idea how men must restrain themselves not to hurt them.
Right, that's
How
right.
much
Yeah.
they have to
Yeah.
practice all sorts of balance
Yeah.
so they don't hurt a woman, because if they
Yeah.
truly use their actual force, they can be killed. The woman could be killed pretty easily, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it is both scary and also a warning for us. And I know that some of you could say, "Oh, never date a man, never do this, 4B movement, whatever." This is not realistically for all the people, just to ignore 50% of society. So, just because of these concerns. So, we don't need to go from one extreme to the other extreme. One extreme is to be extremely easy, accessible. That's poor hygiene. It's poor spiritual hygiene. And I know that's another thing that you're not supposed to say it, but yeah, cancel me right now in this video. I don't care. It is horrible to be that easily accessible to anyone and extremely dangerous. And on the other extreme, would be, oh, I'm not going to interact with them at all. I'm not going to build a family. I'm not going to try anything because I'm afraid, because they are the worst that ever happened. Calm down. There is a middle ground here, and Enjoy and I are trying to we are trying to build bridges. Okay, back to the date. So you Google them, you're going to a safe space, a public space, you know they're not dangerous. So what's your go to first date outfit that makes you feel confident? So to women, it depends on your goal. So there's actually a little rule about how you want to be perceived. If you have long-term goals, the color you want to be seen is white. So your first day you would wear a white dress or white or light pink. Pink represents love, but not the irrational love, but very calm, soft, light feminine love. Red represents sensuality. So red is for more sensual dates, sexy dates, dates that you know they're probably going to end up somewhere private. And black is for more formal dates. So if they invite you to a very high quality restaurant at night, that's a color more appropriate for nights or evenings. So if it's a first date in the morning or during the daylight, I would say pink, light colors, pastel colors, or white. It is the most appropriate color for women, and skirts or dresses which are more feminine. So you want to enhance your feminine side and you want to show your curves, but not too much. Unless again, it is a date that you want to be extremely sexy and sensual, and you know it's going to go to a private place after. But if not, if you want to be seen as, if they want them to commit to you, I would say pink or white.
Yeah, that's tricky because, 20 years ago you could wear a suit with a tie and it was perfectly normal, but now no one wears a tie. So, well, I suppose, you can't really go wrong with a sports jacket. I know not everyone knows what a sports jacket is. It basically means a suit jacket. Yes, you can wear chinos with it and a shirt. That would be fine in most cases, but of course it really depends where you're going and what you're doing. But I think that would be safe in most places. Maybe I should say, a little while ago I had a pimp talking on I think it was on wherever it was, YouTube or wherever, and he was talking about how he manipulates women, and one of the ways was to, he would say to them, "Oh, wear something really fancy." And then, so they would dress like they were going to a really, really expensive restaurant, and then he would take them to some nightclub in some really dangerous area, or vice versa. You would tell them, okay, dress, we're going casual to a nightclub, and then he would take them to a really, really upscale restaurant to make them feel out of place, and then that they would rely on him to feel safe. So, you know, be aware of your surroundings and where you're going.
If I were available, this wouldn't work with me at all because I mastered the art of disappearing. So if someone would take me to a dangerous place, I would just disappear to the bathroom and get an Uber and get out. Or if you take me to an upscale place, it wouldn't matter because I always overdress. So this wouldn't work on me, whoever this person is. But yes, great tactics. Now more material to teach my girls. Be careful. And always ask them, where are you taking me? Although I do like some mystery. Okay, is it weird to talk about zodiac signs on a first date? Lol. For me, it's not because I'm a witch and I don't care. I really love astrology. I know some men hate it, but I guess if I was available and the men whatever hated astrology, it wouldn't work out.
Yeah, I
What
mean,
about you?
I would tend to avoid it, uh, because it can be seen as by a lot of people, not just men, but it can be seen as a sign of someone who's a bit flaky and maybe is going to make poor decisions based on on the horoscopes.
That's what a Capricorn would say.
Yeah, of course.
You don't need to have a whole conversation about signs. You can just very subtly ask them, and you don't need to comment on the sign or please don't do any weird expression. So let's say they are Gemini, and for some reason you don't like Geminis. Don't do like, you're Gemini, it's not gonna work. Things like this. No, just take whatever information is or prejudices you have for yourself, because I agree with you. I don't like the prejudice that comes with zodiacs. It is an interesting tool if you truly love it and know how to use it. But also, if you make a whole date about it, it can be a turn off, especially if you make certain commentaries based on it.
Yeah, a whole day about astrology will definitely be a turn off for most people.
Yes, but if you're dating a witch, well,
Mhm.
it comes with the job.
It does. I mean, I think if they know that about you, then if they know you're into the occult, then yeah, probably mentioning star signs is not going to be a big deal. It's probably, you know, less of a shock than the occult. So, but in general, yeah, I think I mean, yeah, it's okay to mention, but I wouldn't talk a lot about it on a first date, regardless.
Talking about first dates, lots of people they were very confused about the movement, who goes first, what is
Mm,
happening, how I should behave. And I really like these questions because if you know etiquette, you know how to move, you're very confident because you know the rules. And even if you want to break them, there are certain rules I break because I rather break them than do whatever I was supposed to do. But if you know them, you know when to break, how to break, and how to move. Your
yeah.
confidence increases a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, the idea of etiquette is that you're trying to make something as easy and as pleasant for the other person, right? Or sometimes safe as well. So, yeah. So there are times to break the etiquette. If you understand that, that should be pretty easy. Like, so this is not really etiquette, but, there's this big thing about should a man walk on, the side of the road or the side of the buildings. And traditionally, it's the man walks on the side of the road to protect the woman from being seen as a, loose woman and having guys in cars look at her or whatever, which, as a general rule of thumb is maybe a good idea. But if you see ahead of you that there's a group of guys standing outside a building, you might want to swap positions because, especially at night if they've all been drinking or something, maybe it's better that she's away from them. But in regard to more normal etiquette, yeah. So, let's say we're opening a door. Okay, the guy walks first and opens the door for her. But if it's a rotating door, he has to be behind to push the rotating door behind her so that she doesn't need to push it. But so it's just what is going to make life easier and what is going to make life pleasant. It's like or more pleasant. So yeah, and this is not just on a romantic date, right? It's also with friends. I ran into someone I hadn't seen for many years, an acquaintance the other day. I went for lunch with them, and I not because she's a woman, just because I'm being polite. I let her sit in the seat that she could look out to the restaurant and see outside, whereas I could only see her in the wall. And to show some respect that she gets this pleasant view. And obviously on a date, yeah, you should definitely do that if you're a guy.
Yes, yes, you should definitely do that. Regarding walking, also it's because of the cars, the movement of the cars, and because back in the days they would throw stuff out of the windows. So the men would protect the woman from whatever it is they would throw, and it's just a way to protect her. That's why men should walk near the cars, etc. But these are great points. And yes, if you are inviting someone to a restaurant, that means the person who is inviting is the masculine energy. And you are absolutely right, regardless if it's a friend or co-worker or whatever, you give them the best view of the restaurant. So the one with the masculine energy is the one interacting with the staff. That's also important. And I will give you one example how this could be reversed. Let's say I invite Angel to a Brazilian restaurant, and I'm inviting you because I want to show you my culture. So I'm the one in the commander energy, the masculine energy. I'm the one who knows the culture, who can speak with the staff, who knows the language. So I'll be the one ordering, paying for it, and doing all the procedures to make sure that you are um, in the best seat of the house and getting to know the restaurant and all of that. So yes, definitely the roles can be reversed. So the main rule is that the one inviting is the one with the commander masculine energy, and the one who is invited to is the one with the receiving energy. And talk about that. How do you say no thanks to alcohol?
I mean, I think you should just say it. No, no thanks. I don't drink, or no, no thanks. I prefer, you know, whatever it is, water, or I think it's, I mean, I don't think there's, you have to explain. I think it's perfectly fine that you don't want alcohol.
Yes, it is. But also, I noticed that sometimes when you were sober, especially for a long time, not engaging in alcohol at all, and you go to a certain places, people really insist,
Hmm.
and you should actually stand tall and just say, no, thank you, not today, or I don't want to. And I agree with you, you don't have to explain. And the more they insist, the more you stand your ground, because some people they just don't understand why you're not drinking or why you're not doing this or that. Know your limit. I
Yeah.
really like this question, and I totally understand, especially if you're a girl, because sometimes men
Yeah.
tend to push you alcohol a
Yeah.
lot because they want you to feel more
Yeah,
whatever.
of course.
And you should be able to say no, thank you, or I'm just having a little bit of it and whatever, you know. You
Yeah,
you don't
definitely.
feel pressured to do anything.
Yeah.
Uh, re
I think if someone's pressuring you to drink alcohol, that's kind of a red flag, really. And yeah,
Definitely
you should definitely not feel pressured.
not at all. Not at all. How fancy do table manners need to be on a first date?
Well, don't go anywhere that is so fancy you don't know what you're doing. That would be the first thing, I suppose. But yeah, I think yeah, that's a good question. It's difficult to articulate in the abstract, but just be polite and do all the normal things. Don't eat with your mouth full. Eat from the cutlery from the outside in, that kind of thing.
One more question. So we received lots of questions about finances. Lots of people, they were, extremely confused. Who should pay? Again, if it's about two people, it would be the masculine energy, the one who invited. So if I invite Angel, I'm paying for Angel. If he invites me, he's paying for me. And usually, you should check your finances and invite the person to a place you can afford. And pro tip, everyone, the best place to invite someone is a place you can prepay. So, for instance, I really enjoy a restaurant here in Melbourne that is a Brazilian restaurant, and I have invited friends over and paid for the entire table, prepaid. And it was all they could eat. They could choose whatever it is they wanted, and you can prepay for drinks too. So there are many upscale restaurants that accept this kind of offer. It's amazing because you don't have to think about money. All you have to do is sit down. No one is uncomfortable because, it's already paid for, whatever. And it's a way for you not to worry if you are indeed worried about what the other person is going to request. But for the masculine energy, you need to understand that there are pros and cons to be the host. The con, of course, it is this worrying part, but the pros is you are in control. So you should be the one making the suggestions, guiding the person to choose something you can afford. And you should be the one talking again directly to the staff. So I've seen some guys afraid of girls who want the expensive wine, and some girls are trying to see to push a little bit to see how the guy's gonna respond to that. And you can gently guide the whole night. So Angel, you know more about that because you were the gentleman. Would you do if you
Mm.
invite the a girl and she starts to push to the most expensive things? Don't do that, girls. If you are my students, you know you're not supposed to do this. But let's say this girl, I don't like her at all. But let's say she starts pushing, I want the most expensive wine and
Mm.
the caviar. What would you do?
Yeah. Well, me personally, okay, so first of all, you know, take the person somewhere reasonable, right? You don't, it's probably not a good idea to go to a restaurant where there are $2,000 bottles of wine on the menu on your first date because they might pick it, depending on who it is. But if that happens, you're on your first date and somebody says, "Oh, I want that wine," and it's $500 or $2,000. Me personally, I would just say no. This probably is not a long-term prospect, and they're probably just trying to get out of you what they can. Or if they are a long-term prospect, it's going to be very, very expensive because this is going to be their minimum, and they're going to want to keep getting more and more. It should be a sort of reasonable interaction that that someone is not taking advantage. And frankly, a $2,000 bottle of wine is not going to taste that much better than a $50 bottle of wine, if at all.
Absolutely. Even
So of
caviar,
course,
they all taste the same, but for
yeah,
some reason they try to push you the most expensive can there is.
of
There is
course,
no reason to that. You can definitely get perfectly fine, extremely amazing caviar, salmon caviar, which is the best in my opinion. Well, they basically taste the same, but anyways, for a very reasonable price, there is no need to overprice the whole thing. If you want to go for a, more upscale experience, and I think for the women, if you don't want to be pushy, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. This is not the way you test a man. Because I've seen all this crazy tests on how to test if he's a provider. 2,000 bottle of wine is not the way to do this. Trust me in this one. You just
no,
let him lead you, let him offer, and you, based on what he offers, you say, "Oh, I rather this or that." So let's say he can offer, oh, what do you prefer? Would you rather have a red wine or white wine or whatever? And then you choose from the range that he picks. So this is another great tip. He picks a range, or, oh, I think we should have pasta tonight, or salmon tonight, or whatever. And then you choose from that range of things. Of course, I've
Yeah.
seen as well the other extreme, which is the couple is at the table and the guy is extremely pushy and also giving um, some sort of, oh, you should eat salad and not a steak because you don't want to gain weight. This is the other extreme of the of being pushy. So you don't want a girl who asks for a 2,000 bottle of wine unless you were talking about this. Oh, I really want this wine for a specific reason, and you're celebrating something, and this was discussed prior. But you don't want a girl who goes for this bottle of wine, and you don't want the man that pushes you to eat salad or controls your weight in this way. Of course, again, the man will probably lead and probably suggest. And again, if you don't want to eat salad, it is your responsibility to say no. Don't just also um, being feminine is also about boundaries. You don't want to just say yes to everything he suggests just because he is paying for it. And another thing that I'd like girls to understand is that it's not because a guy pays you for food that you should be intimate with him. Food doesn't equal intimacy because some girls they rather pay for the food so they don't need to have intimacy with the guy, or so they lose their femininity, sensuality because they're so afraid of um feeling forced to do something. And some of them think just because someone offered you a piece of a meal, you need to do whatever it is they want you to do. It's not how societies work. On the other extreme, you have men who are feeling used because women don't want to be intimate with them and they still paying for everything. So, Angel, what is your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, if a woman is out with a guy, she's definitely not obligated to be intimate with him. I mean, you're supposed to be kind of getting to know each other and seeing if there is a fit. It's not a transaction where somebody is buying you for sure. And I think you mentioned guys who want the woman to have a salad, but maybe I think on the flip side as well, there are guys who will spend a lot of money thinking that that's going to guarantee intimacy. And I think that's, both are red flags, right? Either extreme. Yeah.
What guarantees intimacy is connection. You both enjoy each other, you both are having a great time, you both understanding there's chemistry. And how do you know that? With conversation, with having a great time. So this is the first video of our series on etiquette, dating, and all of this. And again, the purpose and the goal is to create bridges between these very divided roles.
Yeah, so yeah, we mentioned etiquette, especially at the beginning, and conversation itself it implies etiquette, right? You're supposed to be listening to each other, you're supposed to be talking sincerely and letting someone know about you, but also listening to the other person as well and letting them tell you about them. And rather like spending too much to kind of try and guarantee or try and buy someone's affection. There is also this thing. I don't know if women do it as much, but where one person will try and impress the other person by saying everything they've ever done. And I think you do need to leave a little bit of mystery. And, if you're spilling everything that's interesting about you and everything you've ever done, well, first of all, it's actually quite boring for most people to listen to that. But then there's nothing beyond that, and people see it's a kind of facade. So, in a way, etiquette, yeah, sounds very old-fashioned. You have to you should let the other person have a better view of the restaurant, or you should make life easier for them, or you should listen to what they say. But ultimately, it's about creating a better experience, especially for the other person that you're with, which is just politeness. But, yes, there's etiquette in conversation as well. And
Absolutely. If you want to appear more interesting, learn how to listen more, ask more questions.
yeah,
That was lovely, and it was all for today. See you soon. Bye bye.
bye for now.